Well, good evening, internets. It's me, DP Knudten, for another edition of Bookward Bound, my 301-day journey from I should I should really do this to done. And I'm just having a little bit of problem here with my audio, so hang on just a second. Where the heck would that be? No, because it's not plugged in. There we go. Yeah, I should probably work these things out before I go live, but, that would mean having a plan. But that's okay, because this is not about having a plan. It's about flying by the seat of my pants as I go ahead and create a brand new book for self-publishing on January 1st, 2021. And what is that book called? Well, you already saw the cover design right there. It's called Nonfiction Brand, Discover, Craft, and Communicate the Completely True, Completely You brand you already are. And that's what I'm coming down here every night to do. In fact, tonight is episode 271, which means I only have 30 days left to go in this whole journey before the 31st of December. And the very next day is the day that I'll be uploading press-ready PDF files to Amazon's Kindle Direct Publishing platform, where I will be self-publishing a brand new book. And yeah, it's a pretty serious endeavor that would have been really hard to do if it weren't for you. So thank you for being a member of my peer pressure posse that keeps me coming down here and working on this thing. And let that be a lesson to you too, young lady and young man. Making a big pronouncement of something you're going to do is a great motivator for getting you to actually do it, because all the people, the fear of having people are going to say, I knew you said you were going to do it. I knew you wouldn't get it done. That is, in fact, a tremendous motivator for getting it done. So let's get it done. And how am I going to get this thing done? Well, I'm going to go to Scrivener, the application I'm using to write this book, which looks a little something like this. Let me get this out of the way. There we go. And you can see Scrivener has a big window where you do the major writing, and then over on the left side, a organizational or navigation pane where you can see all the various sections and subsections, etc., or chapters, whatever you want to call them. The structure of your book, the arc of your book, the narrative arc of your book. Let's call it that. Anyway, I'm going through and changing all these blue flags to green flags by doing a first pass edit on each and every one of these things. And because I love to have a very vocal style of writing, the best way to make sure it's vocal is to actually vocalize it, actually read it aloud. And so what I'm doing when I do this is I read it aloud and I listen for stumbles, for I'm running out of breaths. I'm, all the obstacles that could mean that the prose is not quite as smooth and polished as I would like it to be. So, long story short, let's read this damn thing. So this is a new section called Branding Equals Doing. There are a lot of different definitions and understandings about the word brand. For some, it's a little more than the consistent use of color, type, logo, and tagline. For others, it's an exercise in discovering the most viable story out there that can hyper-engage with a finely targeted audience. For me, it's a noun that only really proves its value as a verb. Branding is about doing. In other words, if your personal brand is sitting on the sidelines, it's not a brand at all. This does not mean you need to start doing makeup tutorials on YouTube, meme dance variations on TikTok, or whatever the kids are going to be doing next year on whatever spanking new social media shiny object shows up. It just means you need to figure out how to best use the limited time you have available on a social channel that doesn't make you gag in order to demonstrate, say it with me, who you are, what you do, and how you do it. The fewer, better doctrine. Were I to be as socially active online as many experts say I should be, I'd be billing zero. If I were to be as socially active online as many experts say I should, Yeah. Were I to be as socially active online as many experts say I should be, I'd be billing zero. All my time would be taken up churning out content, scheduling and posting, sticking around to engage with commenters who may or may not be there, and constantly thinking I'm not doing enough. Sound familiar? It does to many, and quite frankly, such feelings keep many smart, competent, expert, and experienced people off social completely. Believe me, I understand how they feel. But I just hate leaving opportunity on the table, especially for younger folks who do not share my distaste for the digital life. So what's a time, energy, bandwidth, and patience-pressed guy to do? Fewer channels, but better. Of all the social media platforms, out there, I'm only really active on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And even then, most of that activity comes in the form of serious cross-posting. Get rid of some, don't need it. Readers of my first book, Ratoma, The ROI of Social Media Top of Mind, will recognize the argument that my co-author Spencer X. Smith and I wrote about. The shorthand version of the book's central thesis, that too many people are asking the wrong question about social media when it comes to return on their investment of time, bandwidth, and money. What they should be asking is, what's social media actually good for? You can find the answers throughout this book, but it really comes down to this. There's never been a better way to stay top of mind with your family, friends, clients, and business associates than social media. But central to the premise is also this, to the ROTOM. Turn on top mind. Premise is also this. To get a return, you have to make an investment. In my case, I'll invest pretty heavily in two social platforms, LinkedIn and YouTube, and then put down a minor stake in the other three, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, mostly in the form of amplifying cross posts. But I met two women who made me rethink my diversified social media portfolio even further from the foundation up. Let's see, from the foundation up. Why? Because each of them went deep in only one. Let's hit that with some metallic. One social channel. And it wasn't even the same one. Wasn't even the same one. And then we go into Molly Mahoney, A Force of Nature, exclusively on Facebook. You know those, oh, by the way, I can change that flag. Let's make it a green. Molly Mahoney, A Force of Nature, exclusively on Facebook. You know those kids in high school that weren't just a little bit into drama club, but went all in on it as a lifestyle? That's Molly Mahoney. To say she loves Broadway musicals is to understate the way she feels about every musical production ever performed on the Great White Way. And it's not just an amateur crush either. She's a card-carrying member of the Performers Union Actors Equity and has been cast in theatrical productions across the United States, typically singing and dancing her heart out. Let's get rid of that and. Were you to meet her on the street, you'd see that the amped-up actress you first met on stage is more or less exactly the same delightfully wacky woman in real life. An actor's life is great for a while. If you're one of the elect, blessed by the gods, you could have a career where your name is always up in lights on the marquee. The reality for the vast majority of actors is that you'll spend more time hustling offstage than hoofing it on. It's got nothing to do with talent and everything to do with luck and timing. It's got nothing to do with luck and timing. Molly Mahoney is a living, breathing, and endlessly entertaining example of the typical actor's life in action, which is why she's taken everything she's learned on stage first person and turned it into an entire business model out there in the real world. She runs the majority of what she does under the I'm going to give that some italic, nom de business, the prepared performer. That shouldn't be italicized. I don't think should it. Yeah, it's not the prepared performer. And she adopted Facebook as her number one stage and focus. When I first met her, I asked her about that sole focus on Facebook, focus on Facebook, because I found it more than a little bit interesting that she'd spend all her efforts, all her energy. It's not efforts, it's energy. Spend all her energy on just one social media platform. I don't need an and. Her answer was a masterclass in the practical application of the fewer better doctrine in everyday execution. When I started doing this, I decided to go deep into just one social media platform in order to completely master it, she said. By doing so, I knew that everything I would be teaching my students would be absolutely correct because I had tested every aspect of it out personally. When I say Molly is a force of nature, I really mean it. She's a hurricane of energy, and you can do it inspiration. But she's not everyone's cup of tea, and she's more than okay with that fact. As this interaction on episode 29, get rid of the zero, of the Nonfiction Brand podcast shows. DP says, well, it's funny because, as I said last week, personality can have its great power and pitfalls, and I'm sure you've run into both. I mean, I can see the power coming out at me 24/7 on anything you do. And it's wonderful because having met you, I get you the same way that anyone who meets you does, which is, oh, this is not an act. This is not some kind of sham. This is not some kind of hyped up sales persona. Hyped up, hyphened up. This is who she is. And the essence of nonfiction branding, from my point of view, is know who you are so you can be it. And it sounds like you knew who you were in third grade and that you've been being it ever since. Molly says, I think I've gone through iterations of that too, especially with launching a business, because I remember I'm going to get rid of that I remember when I first started going to networking events feeling like I was a 15-year-old, back in this awkward, acne-filled what's going on in my life, trying to figure out how to celebrate who I am without scaring people away. And there's a fine balance in making sure that I also incorporate not only my crazy cheeseball self, which is definitely a part of who I am, but incorporate the smarts and real hardcore value that I have to offer, period. That it's not just all about come with me. It's like, no, I'm going to give you the strategies that are really going to work. And that was a fine line to make sure that I'm incorporating into my brand with what I wear, with how I speak about things, with making sure I drop the tone of my voice sometimes and slow down. The point you make too, because I have actually had specific people tell me that they have been hesitant about having me at events because they've seen my videos and they're worried that I'm a fake, like put on thing. But when you said once they meet me in real life, they're like, oh, this is really her. But then, like you said, once they meet me in real life, they're like, oh, this is really her. Episode 29. It turns out that Facebook was and is the perfect style stage for Molly's personality and personal brand. The audience has been able to build she's been able to build there dotes on her, not only as a trusted counselor, but personal friend. And her amped up energy, I've already used her friendly, always. I'm going to and her turn it up to 11. Energy is not only acceptable on the social media channel, it helps her break out and be heard in the Moroccan bazaar that is Facebook. Since starting, I've seen her take her social show on the road to other channels. I've seen it, but none have given her even a portion of the success she's found in the Zuckerberg follies of Facebook. She found the stage that not only puts up with her presence, but amplifies her Broadway belter vocal style. Brava, Ms. Mahoney, encore. The nonfiction moral of Molly's story: Molly was smart to pick just one social media channel to focus on, and it was a combination of savvy, sassy, and super smart to make that channel, Facebook, the one social media platform big enough for her big Broadway, for her Broadway, her megawatt Broadway. Her megawatt bright Broadway personality. Her megawatt Broadway personality. How about my megawatt? Give my regards to Broadway personality. Could her act play in more staid theaters like LinkedIn? I don't know. But if you ask me, I think she got it right the first time. But if you ask me, I think she got it right the first time. Yeah. If you'd like to hear more from her, check her out on these episodes. Lovely. Change icon to the green flag of completeness. And again, I'm going to do more editorial proofing, whatever you want to call it, passes when I port this on over to Microsoft Word for final finishing and formatting of the book. But for now, this gets everything pretty darn solid. So let's do one more section tonight before I knock off for the evening. And that would be about this lovely lady, Sarah Gross. And I'm going to plug this in here. And we'll fix up this formatting too. Sarah Gross, breaking LinkedIn. This picture sums up Sarah perfectly. I asked her for a headshot she liked, and this is what she sent. Picture equals 1,000 words. Let's make sure the size should be scale picture to 150 wide, 359 DPI. Love it. When I started getting serious about my online activity, it was only natural I'd focus my efforts on LinkedIn, since I've been providing business-to-business marketing services for over 2 decades. But finding out that one of my favorite follows on the site was barely in her 20s was a bit of a surprise. And even more so when I had her on the Nonfiction Brand podcast for the first time. I came across Sarah Gross on LinkedIn the same way many regular users did, in my feed. I didn't pay attention immediately, but after seeing her name and a consistent series of posts, a consistent series of posts in my feed on a I don't need in my feed twice there. I didn't pay attention immediately, but after seeing her name and a consistent, I don't need a comma either. But after seeing her name and a consistent series of posts on a very consistent basis, I eventually started engaging with her work, discovered the value of it, and quickly wanted to reach out to learn more about her and the strategy she was using to very effectively demonstrate her personal brand. Here's an exchange we had in episode 12 of the podcast. One of the things I really love is the fact that you're 21 years old and you're hitting LinkedIn hard. Why? From everything I've read about you and your cohort, you're supposed to be spending all your time on Snapchat or whatever the latest, greatest shiny object is. And here you are, 21, and here you are, 21 years old, and you have just really devoted yourself to LinkedIn. Why? Sarah, yeah, it's actually exactly that. No one, or there's very little people who are so young on the platform. And so I knew that me having a presence on there, I would make a splash versus if I was a little bit older, a little bit more mature with a lot of experience. If I waited until then, I want to hit that with some bold. If I waited until then, the space would be way too crowded already. So kind of me being there now, it makes me stand out so much more than if I was 50 years old, had like, let's get rid of the confusing words, had all the medals under my belt. And I would be just like another number because LinkedIn is a business platform. Everyone there is a business professional. 2 spaces. However they consider it. And so for me being 21 years old, it's like, who is this girl? How come she has all this knowledge? Or how can she do this? And it kind of get rid of that and it kind of just got people to look. It's the candy. It was my candy to get people to focus. Well, that's pretty interesting because if anybody looks on your feed or links to you via LinkedIn, you're going to see that Sarah isn't afraid to drop some F-bombs or afraid to air some dirty laundry. She isn't afraid to be not just real, but oh my God, girl. Oh my God, girl, be real. I think what I'm going to do is real. And that's part of the stress energy, right? I mean, from my point of view, I look at what you're doing, and what you're doing is you're throwing a rock through a glass window, and that glass window is LinkedIn, or the perception of what LinkedIn is or should be. Sarah, exactly. I mean, I'm not really I didn't start with a strategy. And this has been my personality since way back when I used to fight a lot with my parents because I was just so rebellious. I wanted as much independence as possible. And so I just transferred all of that, all of me being a rebel onto LinkedIn. And then I started building a personal brand behind it. And so now it's part of my strategy, always keeping true to myself, making sure that I ruffle a little feathers here and there. I think it keeps it fresh. It keeps it interesting. I'm so sick of everyone being a thought leader these days because everyone thinks they are. I'm going to hit that with some bold. Me, I say. It's funny. If you want to know the biggest flock of sheep that are walking around, it's the ones who put thought leader into their LinkedIn profile in some way or another. Some way or other, because as you say, everybody's a thought leader these days. Yeah. And I love it when they have to tell you that they're a thought leader. or they have to tell you that they're an influencer, because I mean, it's one thing if you say it yourself. It's one thing if you say it yourself. You don't need the comma there. But it's a whole nother ball game. All right, so she repeats that. But it's a whole nother ball game if someone tells you you're an influencer, because that means you're clearly influencing someone. Sarah Gross, episode Nonfiction Brand Podcast, episode 12. Podcast, comma, episode 12. Go follow Sarah on LinkedIn for any significant period of time, and I think you'll completely understand why I wanted to talk with her. Her strategic mindset and damn the torpedoes attitude makes her a potent force on the platform. But now that she's been so effective building her personal brand from college dropout to head of an entire department, platform. But now that she's been so effective building her personal brand from college dropout to head of an entire department that was designed completely by her for her, means she's not quite as prolific as she once was on the platform. I'd feel sorry for Sarah if I didn't know that her decreased posting tempo was directly due to the success of her personal brand development. Frankly, that's a great problem to have. The nonfiction brand moral of Sarah's story: by focusing on a platform that saw very little activity from people her age, Sarah effectively had LinkedIn to herself, especially because of what she posted, how she posted, and why. Did her breaking things modus operandi cause a few old business dudes to lose their minds? Why, yes, it did, and that was 100% in keeping with her personal brand. It's not for everybody, but for those it does, it's fire. If you'd like to hear more from Sarah, listens to 12, 13, 22, 23, 40, and 41 of the Nonfiction Brand Podcast. All right, so that gets a green. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of these getting ready to go, because here's the thing. I'm done for tonight. I'm not going to do any more reading or editing, but I do want to point out that what I'm doing is getting this ready so I can turn this into a pre-publication PDF file that I can send to everybody in the book so they can help me essentially proofread their sections of the book, make any corrections. Like if I, God forbid, misspell their name or something, it'd be great to know that before it goes to publication. Plus, they'll get a chance to see what I'm writing about them. If they don't like it and say, dude, I don't want to be in the book, I can pull them out. I've got other stuff. It's not a big problem. But if they like it, they are now going to be evangelists for this book when it comes out. And I'm also going to be asking them for a blurb for the book. Maybe if it's a good one, it's going to go on the cover or the back of the book, because there's space on the cover. If you look closely, there's space on the cover right up top for one blurb. And then on the back in that grayed out section, there's space for two blurbs. So I can have one cover blurb and two back cover blurbs that, by the way, if their name is on the book, that proves them to be somebody special, right? Like, would you have a problem if someone wrote a book and you having your name on the cover of the book, blurbing them? Of course, I'm not asking anyone to lie or not give me their true feelings, but seriously, if you like the book and like what I wrote about you, give me a great blurb. If it's good enough, I'll put it on the cover. That would be a cool thing to enhance your personal brand, right? Well, that's part of the strategy of doing a book. Believe me, this is a heavy lift. This has not been an easy thing, my friends. It has not been easy to come down here every night for 271 days, with the exception of 2 nights where I had Lyme disease. Yeah, the only nights I didn't come down here, I was sick as a dog in bed. But the third night, I forced myself to come down for even a few minutes because I had to keep this book moving along. And again, you're a big part of the reason why. You're my peer pressure posse who have kept me on the job, working on this thing, and I cannot thank you enough for that help. I'm DP Knudten for the Nonfiction Brand podcast, which of course comes out every single Monday. In fact, today's Wednesday. Well, guess what? Last Monday, a brand new episode came out with Kate Toon of Sydney, Australia, and the Stay Tuned Inc. companies of marketing digital madness down in Sydney. And she'll also be on next Monday's episode as well, because I always do them in pairs. You kind of get an A episode and a B episode from the same guest. And she's fantastic. So check it out wherever you get your fine podcasts for free. Just search for Nonfiction Brand. And of course, this image with my black and white photo and the words Nonfiction Brand stacked like that in impact type font. The type is called Impact anyway. And you'll be getting the right podcast. That's it for me tonight. Thank you so much for helping me on this. But until tomorrow, theme music, take us on out. Whoa, that's a little smoking hot. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.